Today, linear time is hellish and uncaring, but it does bring us fun anniversaries. This is CheckPoint. Welcome to CheckPoint. I'm Graham Stark.
I'm Brendan Beej Deary.
And I'm Kathleen DeVere, and we'll all be your anchors, unless we test poorly with the target demographic.
In that case, instead of your anchors will be your cleats, gunnels, or even, if you ask nicely, your mainsails.
This is episode 500 of CheckPoint, and we thought it would be fun to go back and check in on the stories that we covered way back in episode 1 and see how they've developed over the last 12 years.
Watching episode 1 is not a prerequisite.
In fact, don't.
A quick update on the Wii Vitality Sensor. Nintendo has announced that they have canceled the project. I mean, they announced the cancellation in 2013, so if you've been waiting 10 years to find out, consider you're outfound. When asked for comment, former Nintendo CEO and champion of the Vitality Sensor, Satoru Iwata, said, "It probably wouldn't have been too much use to me anyway." In case you weren't aware, though, Nintendo has a long history of biofeedback sensors, going all the way back to 1969, when they were selling their first electronic product, the Nintendo Love Tester. 2 people each grabbed a sensor bulb, then joined their free hands and let the Love Tester determine their compatibility through what I'm assuming is a series of brain-melting electric shocks, or deep tissue vibration, or detecting thetans, or maybe it was fucking random, who knows. When asked for comment, former Nintendo toy guru and the guy who dreamed up Colossus's nuts on a string here, Gunpei Yokoi, said, "The Love Tester came from me wondering if I could somehow use this to get girls to hold my hand." Yo, that's an actual fucking quote. I mean, Yokoi's also dead, so I could have said something super grim here too, but really, I just wanted to lean into how much of a horn dog you could be in the media back in those days, and nobody minded. He continued, "I wound up holding hands with quite a few girls thanks to it. Of course, somewhere along the line, I started to feel like I wanted to do more than just hold hands." Thank Christ he didn't, or we would have never gotten the Game Boy. And let's be honest, if the Wii Vitality Sensor had actually gotten made, there would have been articles about people putting them on their chodes and running laps on Woohoo Island. Let's be thankful we dodged that bullet, and also, you can buy a pulse oximeter on Amazon.com for $10. So see you on pixelated YouTube in a week, I guess.
In 2011, we brought you the story of THQ's grand plans for the future of the Red Faction franchise as quickly approached the doubleheader of the third-person shooter Red Faction Armageddon and the made-for-TV Sci-Fi Channel original movie of Red Faction Origins. The game received the kind of reviews that were typical of 2011 for a thoroughly competent, if horrendously bland, action game, which is to say, 7s across the board. However, it was not only Yahtzee Crosshaw's 4th worst game of 2011, it also had very poor sales numbers. But maybe the movie would help. Well, folks, I spent $5 and 90 minutes of my own money and time last night to watch Red Faction Origins, a Sci-Fi Channel original, and it's time for CheckPoint Goes to the Movies. Who's in this movie? Nobody you've heard of, though you might recognize some of their names as they've all gone on to do more notable things since, like a recurring role on CSI or a supporting character in Jordan Peele's Nope. But Graham, it's a sci-fi original. Who's that one actor that we do know to bring in casual viewers, like dads? Oh, that's Robert Patrick. You know, the T-1000. Portraying Alec Mason, the main character of Red Faction Guerrilla, though the main character of this movie is his son Jake. Wait, so this takes place decades after the Red Faction revolution against Ultor? Yeah, Red Faction Origins is not remotely an Origins movie, unless you mean the origins of the Armageddon game, because in that one you play Jake's son fighting a bad guy who in this movie looks like Yanto Jones from Torchwood, but in the game looks like Darth Milk. The movie actually opens with an exposition dump over footage from previous games, but shown on bad TVs to cover for it. Okay, but Graham, is Red Faction Origins any good? Well, the user reviews on the Internet Movie Database seem to agree the movie is pretty good for a sci-fi original, which is just about the faintest praise I've ever seen a movie damned with. The acting is wooden, the editing is frenetic, the bad guys look like early-era Cybermen. If a character gets to have a moment of growth, it is exactly that, a literal moment where they flip a switch and now act different. The CGI looks cheap, the pacing lumbers from beat to obvious beat, and the Marauders, who in the game are futuristic Mad Max raiders, are presented here as Irish space monks. I am sorry to report the movie doesn't even have the courtesy to be awful, it's just boring. And only a year after the game and movie were released, THQ would declare bankruptcy and be split up and sold off. No, not because of Red Faction. There were so many bad management decisions that led to that, but Red Faction was in the room at the time.
Also covered in our first episode was News Corp subsidiary IGN's purchase of rival video games media company UGO, a website you likely didn't remember existed, but at the time was very popular. According to coverage of the day, UGO properties boasted an audience of 30 million monthly visitors. They also owned 1UP, and maybe you remember 1UP? Maybe not, because basically every website I've mentioned here would be dead within the next 2 years. But anyhow, because it was one of IGN's biggest rivals, UGO was closed down in March 2012, less than a year after it was bought. It was relaunched later that year as a pop culture comedy site that made short videos about nerd stuff with a humorous tone. But then in February 2013, Ziff Davis bought IGN from News Corp and promptly killed 1UP, GameSpy, and the new UGO in order to focus on their flagship brands, IGNN, Ask Men. This is sad not because UGO's prescient relaunch as a video-centric website came far before the pivot to video wave that would crash so many other media properties upon the rocks of Facebook's inflated engagement metrics, but because lots of people lost their jobs. UGO's final blog post went up almost 10 years ago on February 21st, 2013, and it's noteworthy not only because the website still works, because it is an incredible time capsule of what mainstream internet culture was like 10 years ago. Yo. I've spent many years of my life trying to turn UGO.com into something entertaining for you guys. Hopefully you stopped by recently to watch one of our funny videos, or found yourself debating one of our nerd culture lists, read a movie review, or pondered the age-old question, who would win in a fight, a minotaur armed with a trident, or a centaur armed with a crossbow? Could it be you tried to win something off our homepage, or you Googled hot girls and found a couple of pics you liked? I don't really care how you got here, just as long as you were entertained when you did. Be excellent to each other. Unfortunately, the internet would not go on to heed this advice.
Long, long ago, back when tigers used to smoke, Nintendo was asked by their third-party partners to adjust their game release schedule, as Nintendo's own games tended to overshadow third-party titles coming out at the same time. Nintendo agreed to slow their roll, so how'd that new policy help developers for the Wii? Well, I went to Wikipedia and checked the list of the highest-selling Wii video games, and sure enough, there are 2 titles in the top 10 made by studios other than Nintendo. At number 8, Sora Limited made Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Fuck. Okay, that one doesn't count, but it did sell 13 million, so good for Sakurai. And at number 10, with 9.92 million sold, it's Ubisoft's Just Dance 3. So it definitely helped someone, I suppose. The top 4 games are Wii Sports with 82.9 million, then Mario Kart Wii, Wii Sports Resort, and new Super Mario Bros. Wii, all of which sold over 30 million each because the top 4 were in console bundles, which is kind of like cheating. But hey, the remaining top 10 are Wii Play with 28 million, Wii Fit with 22 million, Wii Fit Plus with 21 million, and Super Mario Galaxy with 12.8 million. That's a fall from 83 million for the number 1 game to not quite 10 million at number 10. Look at the precipitous drop in sales on the top 63 titles. These all sold at least 1 million copies, and out of those, 24 are not published by Nintendo. That's 38%. Let's just take off the top 4 because they're bundled. There's still a big drop-off, and the remaining 23 third-party games I didn't mention don't crack 18th place. That includes games such as Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition by Capcom at 2 million sales, which, by the way, tied Michael Jackson The Experience by Ubisoft and Game Party by Farsight Studios. Oh, and Game Party 2 made the bottom of the list at slot 63 with 1 million sales, tying Rock Band and Super Mario Bros. 3. God, I love data. Sorry for all the numbers. Despite the policy, people just kept buying Nintendo games for their Nintendo Wii. But hey, we did hear a lot starting in the Wii U era about how Nintendo was hungry for indie developers. So after 6 years of the Switch, has it gotten any better? Well, Nintendo has been holding multiple directs every year, with some focusing either on indie titles or on partner titles to help promote third parties. Their most recent direct showcased 35 titles in 44 minutes, spending 20 minutes on 25 non-Nintendo titles. So they're committed. But here's another graph. Check out those big bars at the top again. That's Nintendo-published games, starting with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at the top. And when I look at this list of 74 games that have sold at least 1 million copies on the Switch, I count 17 as non-Nintendo published games, or 23% versus the Wii's 38%. The most successful being Monster Hunter Rise by Capcom with 7.7 million in slot 22. Now, if we trust that Nintendo has adjusted their release schedules to accommodate third-party games, what does this very limited data tell us? We've learned that even when people buy over 100 million Wiis or 122 million Switches, moving a game launch doesn't seem to kick those third-party titles further up the list. Still, releasing Among Us for the Switch resulted in 3.2 million copies sold and a berth at number 36, making them a more successful hunter-killer game on the Switch than number 38's Metroid Dread. Oh, that's gonna sting for a while.
One of the biggest news stories the week CheckPoint launched was the PSN hack, or as it's referred to now on its surprisingly detailed Wikipedia page, the 2011 PlayStation Network outage. When we reported on it the first time, functionality was slowly returning to the PlayStation Network, and when all was said and done, the outage lasted 23 days, the personal information of 77 million PlayStation Network accounts and 25 million Sony Online Entertainment customers was compromised, the company spent $171 million fixing the problem, had to answer questions from the US House of Representatives about the hack, and pay a £250,000 fine to the British government for breaching the UK's 1998 Data Protection Act. Yikes! So how's Sony done since then? Well, overall, very not good. Sony's been the victim of numerous data breaches since 2011, but on the video game side, the most notable ones were the Christmas 2013 and 2014 DDoS attacks on PlayStation Network. But the hacker responsible for many of those attacks, Austin Thompson, aka Derp Trolling, would eventually get 27 months in prison. Since then, things have mostly gotten better for Sony, and that's really good news, because in September 2011, PlayStation Network changed its terms and conditions to specifically prohibit people from suing the company or joining a class action lawsuit against Sony if their information was exposed in another data breach.
And finally, we reported that PopCap was releasing an iOS action strategy game called Allied Star Police, designed as part of a Make-A-Wish request from a 9-year-old who was undergoing treatment for leukemia. At the time, the PopCap team said they were blown away by Owain Weinert and his thorough design document, so much that the internal team, who were only really supposed to spend a week on it for Make-A-Wish purposes, asked for more time so they could properly finish and release it. Contemporaneous news stories show that not only did the game eventually release for iPhone, iPad, and, yes of course, iPod Touch, but that it was actually pretty alright. There's only one review on Metacritic, but it's an 80. Most reviews didn't really score it. They talked about Owain and charitable causes, and hey, an 80's pretty good. And it's nice that there is good news for the game, considering that with the absolutely insurmountable challenges of archival preservation for digital-only games, there's no way in 2023 to play or even install Allied Star Police. How much gaming media has become inaccessible or utterly lost over the recent years bums me out a lot. Oh, and I guess the kid with leukemia was sad too, or was it because, thanks to some Google and Facebook sleuthing that might have been creepy if I didn't have the excuse of journalistic rigor, I found that 9-year-old Owain is now 21-year-old Owain and cancer-free. This is great. Usually doing a follow-up to an earlier story just means Activision Blizzard is being sued for a 4th time. Well, that was 500 episodes. Thanks for spending so much time with us.
On Checkpoint.
Bring it back a bit, Beige.
I am a free spirit and I cannot be contained!
Coming up, we know there is probably news happening this week that we didn't cover today, but in our defense, we wouldn't have known about it in 2011.
That shot where Link is like just falling and falling reminds me of the shot of the dude like doing a dive off of into like a big blue lake.
Oh, yeah.
But he just falls into a blue abyss and you
Right.
actually never see him hit the water. Yeah.
I'm sure speedrunners will manage to make Link do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, 500. Look at that.
We did it.
We did it.
We did it.
It only took 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 11
11-ish.
and some change, yeah.
11 and some change.
If we ever stop doing Checkpoint, we either, I don't know if we definitely shouldn't or definitely should begin that post with, yo.
We just want to make a cool thing we thought you'd enjoy. So
Which, by
check
the-
out these hot tits.
By the way, we talked about this off camera a bunch, but you did a better job reading that than it was written.
Yeah. Well, in the person's defense, you know, the person who would normally be reading their stuff was probably already fired. This was the last blog
Yeah.
post out the door before Ziff Davis like booted everybody out. The fact that the website is still functional is honestly amazing because a lot of the websites Ziff Davis has closed down over the years do not work anymore. They're just gone. The archives have been blown away.
It was the sentence, hopefully you stopped by recently to watch 1 hour funny videos.
Yeah.
Just misses a word.
Yeah.
Do y'all remember that? I mean, I remember that time of the internet where
Oh, yeah.
it was just like, look, what sold was like men 18 to 34 were the prime demographic. There's cheesecake on every website because that was what was going to bring in your viewers.
Men have computers.
I was,
Yeah.
it was wild looking at just the shoulder graphic of the UGO website when it was like games,
Gaming, movies, TV.
girls,
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah,
It was
everything.
like, holy what?
Yeah, there was this big gold rush of who could make For Him magazine, but online about video games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Maxim?
literally what.
Yes.
Yeah, that's literally
Yeah.
what it was.
It was all like Maxim and For Him, but with video games and yeah.
It was the style at the time, like
It
tying an
was.
onion to your belt.
And those, God, I could not have summed up a better like capsule of the internet more than listicles and who would win in a fight articles.
Yes.
I was like,
Oh,
oh
man.
God, yeah, that was internet content back in the day. And people say we're creatively bankrupt now. It's like we never had any money in the tank. We've
It's true.
never had anything going for us. It's always been trash.
I am now recording. Cool.
If you could make a little thumbs up come out of your big thumbs up, that'd have been great.
Is there a way to do that, like with, like, and then just like
Like one that's way far away, yeah.
further back? Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Yeah.
Even like the Nintendo story I found really funny as well because it was like, third-party Nintendo people are like, hey, Nintendo, can you like try not to steamroll us with all of your first-party titles or whatever?
Yeah.
And it's like, sure, Nintendo could do... The only thing Nintendo could really do is stop making
Yeah.
third-party titles because that Nintendo Direct was 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And all anyone cared about was the last 30 seconds when they showed more footage of Tears of the Kingdom.
Essentially,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right? And it's like, there was a lot of awesome looking stuff during that Direct.
Yeah.
Not things that people at this table
There
cared
were
about.
25 titles that were
Yeah.
not Nintendo titles, and that covered half of the thing. Because Pikmin 4 and Tears of the Kingdom were like large, like they were the bookends, and they were about a couple minutes long each. And
Yeah.
Splatoon was like 2 minutes in the middle of the thing, and it's like, okay, so take out all those, and everything got roughly about the same amount of exposure, but again, yeah, all you really cared about were the big tent poles.
Turns out people really like Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Unless you're me, and I was like, New Layton.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does seem like Nintendo's sort of like, sorry for being awesome, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know what they're supposed to do.
Heather had a great idea, though. She mentioned to me last night. I'm like, it doesn't quite fit into the story properly, but it is an interesting idea that by and large, Switch exclusives sell big on the Switch. Like,
Yep.
Just Dance 3 is not a Switch exclusive.
Well, Just Dance 3 would have been Wii.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But it's like that was never an exclusive for
Nintendo.
for Nintendo.
Right.
But it did get to the top 10, right? Monster Hunter Rise selling 7.7 million copies that is an exclusive for the Switch. And it finishes further down the list because there are so many Switch exclusives that are Nintendo games only that come above that, obviously. But even the other ones that are performing the best have to be exclusives on the Switch or have maybe the best experience. I don't know even how you evaluate that because it's I could play this game on another platform I already own, right? I could be going off here and doing it in some other place. And I, of course, don't list how well did those games do in the other platforms they're on. Were they big hits? Were they not big hits? There's all sorts of everything about that data set that I did is that is very limited for a reason because I was at that for 2.5 hours crunching the data, coming up with conclusions, trying to understand how that actually does the analysis lead to the conclusion? Yes, no. Well, how do we approach this that it does? I am a bit making a conclusion and then fudging the data to fit, but it's a comedy news show, so cut me some slack. Morty. Release.
Are you, auditioning for a new role?
I watched Red Faction while you were doing that.
Which one of us spent our time? But what'd you do?
I had to sign back into LinkedIn to follow up on some people who worked at all these websites. I haven't been signed into LinkedIn for a long time.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Oh, they're gonna start emailing you now.
Oh, probably.
You're gonna get LinkedIn emails being we noticed that you're still alive.
Are you still listed as working for Inside Network or whatever?
No,
it is?
I'm still listed as working at Bionic Trousers Media.
Okay.
Which is the last thing I updated my LinkedIn to when I quit working at Inside Network to work here.
Yeah.
And I noticed in my inbox I had received several old messages with people congratulating me on my work anniversaries for Bionic Trousers Media.
Hooray.
And I was like, oh.
Yay, LinkedIn. I do want to say, so speaking of
If you're my
Red
LinkedIn
Faction,
do not message me there.
No.
Yeah, or you'll start sending them crypto notices.
Please, Beej, I have some standards. I have a nice Sony phone.
You can't talk over this part. All right.
500 episodes, and I still don't know what I'm doing.
I joked about this in the story that if a character gets to have growth, because they don't all, that it will be a singular moment. My favorite line of dialogue was from one of the Irish space monks saying to the main character, "I said that your mother deserved to die, and you still saved me. Why?" And then the main character mumbles something about just what you got to do what's right or whatever, and then that character is ride or die for the main character after that point. It's just flip the switch and on we go.
Well, you'd save him from slavers or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Well, that was 500 episodes. Thanks for spending so much time with us. Goodbye.
Get fucked.
Peace. I think we all look really good for our age. I mean, we're all like much younger when we launched the
Beach
show.
wasn't even in that.
Yeah, Beach hadn't even been born yet.
Yeah.
When we started.
I came out of my mother's womb fully formed at 40 years old.
We've all-
You really surprised me there.
we all look great.
Yeah, Paul was actually in that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just smashed an egg in his hand. Hardcore.
Yeah.
This is a weird one, yeah.
Yeah, we said it's not a prerequisite that you watch it, but now we're referencing all of these things like Bij's miraculous birth and Paul's
That
egg
wasn't on
hands.
camera.
No.
We didn't film Beach.
No, she wouldn't let us into the delivery room.
No.
She said
I wasn't even allowed in the delivery room. And when I came out, they fucking took me away. They're
Yeah.
like, you can't be here. I'm like, okay. Shit. Can I get a wet nap?
I have nothing else to contribute.
It's fine.
Hey,
I
thanks.
thought that should have ended about 10 seconds earlier than it did.
Oh, probably. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Here's to another however many we do of these. Bye.